For those of you that know me, you know that missions is a big deal for me. It always has been. I went on my first mission trip at the age of 13 and have been, that particular trip was actually to Jamaica, and it was life-changing, to say the least. Jamaica has just grabbed my heart, and over the years, I have been privileged to take other people on a trip to Jamaica. I have been involved in a wide variety of missions throughout the United States as well as other places overseas. Following Hurricane Katrina, I was able to spend, I can't believe it, my wife definitely believes it, a month down in Mississippi working on homes and churches and working with people there. It was not a month solid, it was on 3 different trips. I was able to join a medical team in Haiti right after the earthquake, and that trip also was a life-changing trip. Missions are a big deal to me. They have and they always have been, as long as I can remember. But here's what I want you to understand, is that if you are a Christian, you are a missionary. Okay, so hear that. If you're a Christian, you are a missionary. Now, that bothers people because people say, well, I don't feel called to a specific country. I don't feel called to a specific thing. There's nothing in my life that would indicate I should do this or that or the other thing. But I'm here to tell you that as a Christian, we have been called by Jesus Christ in the Great Commission that you shall do this. He didn't say you and you and you. It's you. If you're one of my followers, if you're one of my disciples, you shall go into all the world and make disciples. That's our job, not just my job. It's your job. How does that take place? How does that work? It works through a variety of ways, and there are seasons of life that dictate to a certain extent what types of missions you can be involved in. One of the neatest missionaries that I ever met is my great aunt. And she taught Sunday school forever. And she taught Sunday school, that was her mission. But it went beyond that. She was on the missions committee at my home church. And towards the end of her life, her vision started to fail. She had macular degeneration. She was unable to see. She reached a point where she couldn't see the curriculum. She couldn't prepare like she felt she should for Sunday school. So she stopped teaching Sunday school. The other mission that she was involved in, beyond just being on the missions committee, was that she personally wrote out birthday cards to every missionary that our church supported, to their spouses, to their kids, which meant that you would get a handwritten birthday card from my great aunt with a $5 bill in it, no matter where you were in the world. Your child would receive one, and it would be a gift of love in a very spectacular way. As her eyes continued to get worse, she reached a point that she couldn't see well enough to write, and she had to give that up. And I think that was one of the most heartbreaking things for me to witness, because she spent hours handwriting cards. And when her eyesight started to fail, she spent even more time, because it took her more time to get those cards together. Living on a fixed income, she didn't have a lot of money, but she found a $5 bill for every card that went out. She understood that even though she wasn't going to hop on a plane and go to the darkest reaches of Africa to preach the gospel, that she had an obligation as a Christian to be involved in missions. She didn't have a choice. It is what she had to do. And when that phase of her life started to fade, it was truly heartbreaking for her. Now, because I know who she is and I know who she was and how she lived, she transitioned And she spent more time doing what she had been doing as well, which is prayer for missionaries, for missions, for the outreach, for the gospel to be sent to people that needed to hear it, who were lost and dying and falling away. She spent time in prayer. She never quit being a missionary. She understood what missions was all about. She had a missions heart. It was who she was. And likewise, that's who we are called to be. We have to be a missionary if you're a Christian. It doesn't just mean that you come to church on Sunday, you go home. It means that you're intentional about reaching the lost, about sharing the gospel. It may mean you might be in a season of life where finances are good and you're supporting missions. Maybe you decide today that I want to buy 100 wheelchairs. Maybe you decide today that I'm going to sign up for Compassion and I'm going to support a number of kids. There's a lot of ways in which you can be called to missions. You may be saying, you know what, I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. I want to get my hands dirty. And if that's you, we're going to do that this year for adults as well as teens. When I say this year, I mean next year. Calendar thing. We're going to do an adult trip. I don't know where. I haven't figured it out yet. But we are going to go and we are going to do something that impacts the people who don't know about Jesus with the gospel. I promise you that. It's on my to-do list. And we're going to go. If that's you this morning, start thinking about that and start praying about it, because we're going to go. Now, you got to understand that as a Christian, we've been called to this, but we're also a Christian because we're also a missionary because God is a missionary. You see, we were lost. We were dying, we were dead, we were alone, we were heading for hell, and God said, you know what? I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to reach out to them, and I am going to save them. Garden of Eden, sin enters the world through Adam and Eve, and we find that during that time, that's the beginning of God saying, I want to restore this relationship. I want to be in communion with humanity again. I want to reach them. I want to save them. So God became a missionary in the person of his son, Jesus Christ, who came to earth, who lived, we talked about this in confirmation this morning, lived a perfect life, 100% God, 100% human, went to the cross, the perfect sacrifice, and that sacrifice gives us the opportunity to live in eternity with Christ in heaven. Can you imagine what that cost God to be a missionary? It literally cost him his son. He did that for you. How much more then should we do something for the people that are out there in the world who don't know who Jesus is? Who may not be able to even see Jesus because they can't get around. They don't have clean water to drink. They're busy trying to feed their families. How much more should we then be compelled to help them and introduce them to Jesus Christ? God demonstrated for us, through his son Jesus Christ, how a missionary should live, how a missionary should give, how a missionary should be. It's sacrifice. See, being a missionary isn't easy. Being a missionary can be very difficult. And I could tell you stories of difficulties that I've faced overseas. I could talk to you about the discomfort that I had in Haiti as I'm praying outside the emergency room while an infant is dying. And I'm praying for the family. I'm praying for the mother, praying for the child who was dying. I'm praying for the sister who was about 8, and as we discerned what's going on in that family, we realized that she was actually the primary caregiver for that infant because the mom was trying to find food all day. And as I lay there, as I sat there and I'm praying, And I can hear the medical team working on this infant. And I'm thinking, this infant is dying of malaria for lack of a $5 mosquito net. And I don't speak the language, but I can feel the grief. It was tangible. This child died while I was praying. I could tell you stories like that from all different places that I've been to. I could tell you stories about being in Croatia and being called into the police office because we didn't have our papers in order. And the anger that the head of the police department felt towards us, and us gathering together and starting to pray, and that anger just dissipating as God worked through our prayers on the mission field so that we could be free to go about the mission that he had prepared for us, as opposed to being kicked out of the country immediately. I could tell you about stories like that. I've got a lot of stories. But the fact is that we are on the mission field, that we make sacrifices because God sacrificed for us. And you may say, I ain't going anywhere with Piper. Not if he's got those kinds of things happening to him. And that might not be a bad idea. And yet, you have to find out what God has called you to do in missions. What does he want from you? Where do you make an impact? What's that going to look like? I'm not telling anybody about Jesus. I know him and I love him, but goodness gracious, I don't have any idea of how I would start that message, how I would start that talk. Well, I want to tell you, first of all, relax. Take a deep breath. Because God created you, he knows you, he gave you gifts and abilities, and he will do missions through you. It's not about you. It's not your message. It's not what you like to do or want to do, but God will speak to others through you as you hammer nails, as you paint a wall, as you serve food to hungry. God will use you if you're willing to be used. All you have to realize is that it's not your message. It's not about you. It's not about what you can do. It's about, are you willing to step up and say, here I am, Lord, send me. And my hope and prayer, and I'm going to pray this for you, is that God will call you to a specific thing that you can get involved in from a missions perspective. And it may be something that you don't want to do. It may be something that is going to really challenge you and stretch you. But I guarantee you, as God was a missionary, we need to be missionaries. He's called us to that, pure and simple. You got to understand that the mission field is a wide variety of places. Your job is a mission field. Your neighborhood is a mission field. Your family is oftentimes a mission field. And you need to get over yourself, get with the program, and let God encourage you. Let God speak through you. Let God use you. I want to tell you that I have seen Christians at work. Now, you may say, how does that work? How does that happen? Oh, goodness. I look at Rod Johnson. He's retired now. But he was a counselor at the high school for like 300 years, 325, something like that. I mean, I think he was just living on the lot when they built the school, like, we should give this guy a job. And I saw, because of my involvement with teenagers, and because I had teenagers in the school, how he was there for those kids. That was literally his mission field. And I saw the same thing with some, I'm not going to name them because they're not here and I can't make them uncomfortable, with some Christian teachers who were at the high school who were willing to listen to a kid when they didn't have time. They were willing to pray for a kid when they didn't have time. That was their mission field, and they changed and continue to change lives for Jesus Christ in one of the toughest places to be in Albert Lea, the high school. We think in terms of high school missions. Well, we send our Christian kids there every day, and that's true. And that is a mission field for them. But I think about the adults that work there and the impact that they can have and do have in the lives of those kids. You may have heard of the Albert Lea Grizzlies, which is an adult amateur team in Albert Lea that I coach. You talk about a bunch of roughneck characters. These are guys that you don't want to meet in a dark alley. Don knows them. Don's chased him around the field. There's some tough guys. If you needed to have a body buried and hidden, there's some guys there that can help you out. I mean, they're a rough bunch. My involvement with them is my personal mission field. I enjoy football, make no bones about it. I like coaching. I like all those aspects. But my only goal with the Albert Lea Grizzlies is to see young men come to Jesus Christ and see the changes in their lives. Is it everyone? No. Has it been a fruitful mission for me? Yeah, it has. I sat in the front youth room and I was doing some premarital counseling for one of my players. And in that process, he accepted Christ as his personal Savior. I then was able to do the ceremony and marry him. And I've been able to watch as he has been a Christian leader in the household. He makes sure that his kids are in Sunday school. He's actively involved in his church. And their marriage is a blessing to the people that they come in contact with, to their mission field. I'm not saying that to say, oh, I'm a pretty good guy. It's not about me. The message that I have is a message of Jesus Christ who died on the cross so that you could be saved, and there are people that need to hear it, and I'm taking what I do, what I love, what I enjoy, and I'm sharing that through that avenue. What do you love? What do you do? Where are you making an impact? Where's your mission field? See, in my job at First Pres, all of my coworkers already understand who Jesus Christ is. My mission field at work, not real great, because my coworkers are on the team already. Do you bowl? Not in Albert Lea anymore. Do you play softball? Do you race cars? Where are you in your mission? Because God will use whatever you do, whatever you are, whatever you love, to take that message of Jesus Christ to people that desperately need to hear it. Do you get that? I think it's important for us to recognize that as part of that process, this is the tough one. As part of that process, we need to understand that the mission work starts with us. It starts in us. It must, or all we're doing is just checking boxes. Here's my challenge to you. If you want to understand a mission's heart, if you want God to change your heart, you got to change the way you look at people and try to see them through the eyes of Jesus. And I can think of no place better to do that than Walmart. Walmart challenges me and it pushes me. You know what I'm talking about. You go to Walmart, minding your own business, heading for toothpaste, trucking down the aisle. doing your thing, and you reach this spot, and there's somebody there who's looking at toothbrushes. The toothpaste is just there, and they're looking here. Where's their cart? Here. I, a little situational awareness, please, people. I see you. I don't want to see you. I need the toothpaste. Anybody else experience that? Pretty frustrating. I've done this with the teenagers. I've intentionally taken them to Walmart. And before we go in, this is tough. We ask God, change our mind, change our thoughts, change our vision. Help us to see the people in Walmart the way you see them. Help us to love the people in Walmart the way you love them. Because it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about Him. And when you walk into Walmart and you start looking at people and being intentional about seeing them the way Christ sees them, it's going to break your heart. Because you're going to see pain. You're going to see a life of bad choices. You're going to see evidences of people that are grieving, that are in sorrow, of people that are hurting, of people that need Jesus. And then it becomes less about the toothpaste and the aisle blockage and about, wonder what's bothering this person that they have no situational awareness and they're looking at toothbrushes. But what are they really struggling with? What are they really seeing? Being a missionary starts with me. Until I have allowed God to change my heart and to change my mindset and to change the way I see others, I'm not really fit for the mission field. And I'm going to pray for you and me that God will change who I am, change how I see, change how I think, so that I can get set in my mind that Christ died on the cross for me and for the people in Walmart and for the people on the road who don't know how to drive. That God will help me to see their pain. Help me to pray for them as I'm going through the aisles. Help me to think about what could it be with them. But at the end of the day, help me to reach the lost with the good news of Jesus Christ. In whatever form that may take, in whatever way that God presents that to you, I know, because I know what the Word of God says, that I'm called to missions. And for those of you that know me, you probably know that. But I'm here to tell you that God has called you to missions. It's not just me. It's not just my committee. It's not just me trying to change mindsets of people when I take them on trips. It's about you have been called. God has called you to something. And I don't know what that is, but He's going to tell you. And I want you to understand that this whole thing has been orchestrated by somebody who absolutely knows what they're doing, because they were the first missionary, and we need to give and work and serve as God did with His Son on the cross. Let that drive us to be missionaries. Amen.